Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, November 1st. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect sunny skies and a high of 63 degrees in San Antonio today. Bexar County commissioners will get an update today on allocations of nearly $80 million in federal coronavirus relief funds, which must be spent or committed by December 30th. They'll also take action regarding military veteran services and on garbage collection in an eastern portion of the county that lacks long-term sanitation solutions. We'll have it all covered over at expressnews.com. Early voting for the two December 12th runoff elections for Alamo Colleges District Board seats began yesterday and will continue through December 8th. We have everything you need to know about the runoffs at expressnews.com. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. Gay Corder and her husband Philip were standing on their balcony aboard the Diamond Princess when they found out a man from Hong Kong on the ship had tested positive for the coronavirus, which was rapidly spreading in China. The Corders spent 12 days on the ship before a confusing, hectic evacuation to the United States. Then, 15 more days of quarantine under the watch of armed marshals at Joint Base San Antonio Lackland. By the end of the outbreak, 14 people from the ship died from what was then still a mysterious disease. A longtime author, Corder passed the time in federal quarantine at Lackland, channeling her fear and frustrations into written word, assembling what would eventually become her next book. Quarantine: How I Survived the Diamond Princess Coronavirus Crisis was published on November 10th by Post Hill Press. You can read more about this story in Lauren Karuba's latest article. At the Idea Carver schools, college is an expectation instilled from the moment students begin. Everything, teacher training, coaching, curriculum, student intervention plans, is centered around that, said the superintendent and principal at both schools. They are among only 4 schools in San Antonio ranked as pandemic-proof by the Houston-based nonprofit think tank Children at Risk. You can take a closer look at the findings of the report and what makes the Idea schools score so highly in the rankings. Usually an intimate event filled with loved ones exchanging plenty of hugs, handshakes, and high fives, this time, family and friends witnessed Letty and Jared Romero adopt brothers Alex and Jason via computers, phones, and iPads. The Bexar County Children's Court provided an online link that's been standard for nearly all county judicial proceedings since April because of concerns involving the coronavirus. The couple chose a process that fit the family, a virtual window for their special day. 18 virtual attendees watched from squares across various screens. Judge Charles Montemayor announced the boys as members of their forever family, setting off applause from the online gallery. The adoption event was the culmination of the Romeros' 2-year journey to adopt a child in need of a loving home. For 50 years now, Conrad and Frances Gonzalez have been telling their story of their family's ancestral ranch in South Texas, a place taken from them because it was vast and rich in resources. For more than a century, similar stories have been passed down from one generation to the next in South Texas, Elena Ayala writes. Only a handful have been documented in books and films. Others have been collected in family archives and oral testimonies about an erased history. They're being used not in court cases that seek relief, but to tell a broader story of Texas, the Southwest, and the United States. This story may be one of the latter. You can read the full story in Elena Ayala's latest column. Anita Curian, who heads the Communicable Disease Division at the Metropolitan Health District, said the department is strongly recommending against gathering or dining indoors with other people, including in restaurants. We're tracking the spread of the coronavirus over at expressnews.com. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. Pearl developer Silver Ventures wants to build apartments across the San Antonio River from the popular mixed-use complex, expanding its footprint and adding to a flurry of projects planned in the area. As bad as the COVID-19 pandemic has been for the economy, a surge in online retail sales has helped Texas rebound from what state officials thought would be an even more disastrous budget deficit. The White House Coronavirus Task Force says Texas is in the swing of a full resurgence of COVID-19 and the state's mitigation efforts must intensify, while Governor Greg Abbott and other leaders decline to take some of the steps the Trump administration is recommending. In the shade of overhead trees, students who dropped out of school attend a class that offers them another chance to earn a high school diploma and learn skills that could gain them entry into the workforce. You could read more about the Youth Build San Antonio over at expressnews.com. San Antonio water system crews discovered zero ammonia Monday after a sewer spill flowed into the San Antonio River over the weekend. With freezing temperatures hitting San Antonio early Tuesday morning, Animal Care Services is warning pet owners it will have zero tolerance for those who don't protect their animals from the cold weather. A damning government report says that little training is required of Texas law enforcement officers and that it's hard to get rid of bad cops. Sexual assault survivors' needs aren't being fully met in Texas due to limited resources, and the pandemic has further strained the system, according to a new study. Texas's manufacturing industry grew for the 6th consecutive month in November, but the sharp new spike in COVID-19 cases in the U.S. is taking a toll, according to a monthly survey by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. The Texas economy has already taken a double hit from a pandemic-driven recession and devastating oil bust. To those setbacks, add one more, a rapidly shrinking Mexican economy. Kendall County officials have reached a settlement with a troubled constable who failed to show up for work for years, even as he was accused of making aggressive and unlawful traffic stops. There's a simple formula for predicting which local Republican officials will be willing to comment on President Donald Trump's ceaseless and baseless allegations that the 2020 election was stolen from him. Listen to this week's episode of Puro Politics to find out how. Up and down Oriental and throughout the Collins Gardens neighborhood on Monday morning, Marcos Perez's adoring customers and friends put out balloons and signs that read, "God bless you, Marcos, you are the best," and greeted him on his last day of 30 years of service with air horns and confetti cannons and some distanced air hugs. There are, in fact, mail carriers in San Antonio much older than Perez. He's just 60, and some at his Arsenal post office station are in their 70s. And several around the city with more than 30 years of service. But even his supervisors say they cannot remember any carrier with a deeper commitment to his job or a closer relationship with the people he served. Drew Eubanks' journey to a full NBA contract required him to give up baseball, toil in the G League, and wait his turn. You can read more about the journey and the high school hoops coach who knew before the rest of them what Eubanks was going to be. Check out the updated rankings and Player of the Week honors for local football, girls basketball, and boys basketball action. Next week, you can experience a cozy night under the moonlight while watching holiday movie favorites at the San Antonio Botanical Gardens. After relocating from St. Paul Square to a new space a few blocks away on East Crockett Street just east of US 281 in July, Smoke Barbecue is now Smoke Barbecue and Sky Bar. San Antonio is known for hosting multiple food festivals honoring tamales during December, but this year the pandemic has put a damper on many of those plans. However, there is a free event this weekend that will allow foodies to get their fill of masa madness. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing for Tuesday, November 1st. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.